Hello and welcome back to Pet Food Forum TV. I'm your host, Kristen Levine, and I'm sitting here with Larine Urbina, Vice President of Communications for Tetra Pak. Thank you for joining us, Larine.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Excellent. You are presenting about reaching the connected pet food consumer.
Yeah.
Why are millennials getting all of the attention right now?
So I think, and folks in marketing know, millennials have been the hot topic for probably the last 5 to 10 years even. And what we're looking at is millennials are still very important. They're a huge buying power, a huge cohort, the largest generation to date. They have a lot of spending power, as I mentioned, and they're also the largest generation of pet food owners now. So for pet food specifically, we know it's very important. But today we're going to talk a little bit about looking beyond that and really like the connected consumer may or may not be a millennial. Many millennials are of course connected, but there are other generations, so it spans a lot of different age ranges.
Whatever happened to focusing on the Xers? It seems like a few years ago, boomers were getting all the love. Now millennials, what about the Xers?
And I think, when we talk about the connected consumer, that's where a lot of those Xers really come in because it is beyond millennials. And there are a lot of Xers, and I think I like to think of myself as one that behave a lot like a millennial, and I am very connected, and I am doing a lot of research, sharing my opinions, sharing my experiences with products.
So talk to me a little bit about super leaders. What are super leaders?
Yeah, so super leaders, if we think about all of the connected consumers, super leaders are the ones that are the most engaged and spend the most time online. So they're the ones that are really out there engaging with brands. They have very high expectations of brands as well. So if they post a question on social media, they expect to get a response. They expect brands to really treat them as a very important individual rather than just one of many that are out there. So they are really driving a lot of these behaviors that we're seeing, and they're also much more likely to share opinions. And we also find that with most connected consumers, they're trusting their friends and family, people like them, much more than they're trusting any traditional source, advertising, even media. So it's they are very influential, like I said, and they yield a lot of power.
So obviously pet food companies should be working with these super leaders, but how do they connect with them? How do they find them?
So it's really, there's not a list out there. You can't go buy the list of super leaders, but it's really paying attention to your channels, understanding who's reaching out to you. A lot of times, social media managers will see that same name pop up over and over again. Those are your super leaders in most cases. So we want to make sure that we are taking care of those guys. We're really answering their questions, engaging with them whenever we can. And ensuring that they don't feel alienated in any way, and also responding to the good and the bad. Some brands sometimes have a tendency to maybe ignore a negative comment, but that's a really great opportunity to win a true fan. So
I see. Okay. Now let's talk a little bit about customer service and how important it is to use the internet and social media.
Absolutely.
Customer service.
Yeah, and I think anyone who's worked on the brand side knows people when they're unhappy, they will take to social media in droves and they will complain. And on the flip side, they also say great things. So it's a matter of using those moments of connection as opportunities to build deeper relationships with the consumers. So not just ignoring a complaint or even ignoring a compliment, but trying as hard as we can just to be engaged with those folks and carry that conversation on, encourage them to come back, buy the product again if they had a negative experience.
So I guess my final question would be, who should pet food companies be targeting demographically?
I think right now what we're seeing is a lot of increase with natural pet food products, people looking for higher quality, and that's really being driven by millennials. So I would say if that's kind of your market, millennials make a whole lot of sense, and they're the ones that are, the pet parent phenomenon I think is really born in the millennials, and they're paying so much more attention to their pets and treating them like family.
Excellent. Okay. Well, thank you, Larine. Appreciate you joining us today, and good luck with your presentation.
Great. Thank you so much.
Okay. And we'll be back with more on Pet Food Forum TV.